Hello, everyone, to another episode of Finding North. It's another Sunday. We have survived another week in very strange times. We also had some very big news last week in the tech industry that we want to discuss today. But first, Fahim, how are you doing? How was your week?
Good. Thank you, Florian. Now, week's good. I think we just need to take each day as it comes, each week as it comes. I'm starting to see a trend amongst colleagues of mine, and also just on LinkedIn and internet, where everyone's more and more celebrating getting through to the Friday evening, right? And they're
Yeah,
like, okay, we've made it.
celebrating the small wins and the good news for it. That's what I started doing. Just focus on the good
Exactly.
news and try to ignore and block out everything else. Otherwise, yeah, we're just gonna get crazy. Good. So without any further ado, we said we want to discuss sort of probably the biggest news in tech of the last week for sure, not maybe of this year, maybe of the last couple of years. Jeff Bezos announced on Tuesday that he's gonna step down as the CEO of Amazon. Andrew Jassy, the current head or director or president, whatever he is, of AWS, is gonna take over. And that just came in the same week where after they announced their Q4 numbers, which were pretty crazy to say the least. So maybe I just give some highlights just for anyone who hasn't seen the earnings call. So the total net sales in Q4 of Amazon was 125 billion US dollars, up 44% year on year, 40% foreign exchange rate adjusted. Free cash flow up 20%, operating income up 77%, and net income up 124%, which means they did not just sell more, but they also made more money of selling more. And that in times of the the biggest crisis since the Second World War and Corona and everything is pretty extraordinary results, I would say. It comes quite handy, as we wanted to discuss in this week's episode, another prediction that Scott Galloway made about the dispersion of retail. And obviously Amazon, I think, has played a significant part in some of this trend. So, and these numbers are just another, I think, proof point that Amazon and e-commerce has really disrupted the whole retail landscape significantly. There's obviously a lot of other players in there, but yeah, it's quite a nice coincidence that we said we're gonna pick that as our topic today, and then Amazon sort of knocks it out of the park again, and Jeff Bezos actually decides to, you're probably now I've achieved everything, there's nothing else left to do, so I'm gonna move on and probably focus on building rockets to fly to Mars or something like that. So Fahim, first thoughts, like when you saw the numbers, and Jenny, what do you think about his move of stepping away as CEO of Amazon?
Yeah, I mean, numbers are extraordinary, but no surprise. I'm not surprised at all. I think the market was expecting that.
Yeah.
To give them, I don't know what is credit or just being at the right time at the right place with the right offering. You know, COVID just helped them. Let's be honest, right?
100%. Yeah.
But they credit to them in terms of fully taking advantage and being prepared for it.
Yeah.
Companies get maybe handed one or two opportunities in their existence, maybe more, depending how long they've been around for, to really catapult them to a whole different level. And boy, oh boy, Jeff decides, you know what, it is time, right at the top peak of the mountain,
To move on.
and I think is just so ceremonial. Is handing over sort of the reins to Andy, who's obviously AWS
Yeah.
technology driven sort of fella. But I think Jeff just timed it so nice. It leaves a really nice legacy and a nice story to tell for many years to come. Um, and I think the most impressive thing here was that, yes, it is newsworthy. But if you just look at the market price, their share price of when the announcement came, just is just BAU, business as usual.
Yeah.
And that is a masterclass of succession planning for such a big business like this, with Jeff playing such a figurehead personality and the face of Amazon. So a complete masterclass of the market. Very quickly going, oh, great choice. Let's
Very
carry
well
on.
timed.
As normal. What did you think? Yeah.
No, I think your last point is super interesting. Like, I think the timing, they probably knew it for a while and said, like, you know what, if we're gonna announce that Jeff is gonna step down, the price, we probably gonna get hit, because he's like everything to that company. So, but if we do it in the same week where we just announce another record year and another, like, knocking it out of the park, the market's probably going to balance it out, because, like, yeah, it's really, it sucks that he's leaving, but they just grew 121% year to year in net income. Okay, I think they can, and the person responsible for that part of the business that contributes the lion's share of the the profitability of Amazon, which is AWS, and it's been for a long time, and he's going to take over. Yeah, okay, and they're up 5%. We looked it up right before the call, so on the week last week, up 5%. So yeah, probably if he would not have announced
the 5%. Yeah,
go ahead.
Go on.
No, I said, like,
I was just going to say the. I was just going to say the 5% is business as usual. This is just that. Hey, this is what we're used to, those fluctuations. But it's crazy for us, for a company of size of Amazon, to just ticking over 5% here, week there.
Absolutely.
It's just,
I still think, though, if they would not have announced, if he would have stayed and they would have announced that level of those numbers, I mean, their price is already pretty high, but, like, if he would not have announced last week that he will step down, based on these results, I think the share price would have gone up even more, because there were a couple of the other ones that, they went a little bit more crazy on the Q4 numbers, all the Corona stocks, and there was probably no other company, as you said earlier, that has profited more from the crisis than Amazon, because there was frankly no other company on the planet that was better prepared and had a better setup to deal with something like that, and capitalize on it. Commerce, fulfillment, customer service, supply chain, all those things, that's exactly what you needed. There's no other company that was better prepared.
I also think though, the letter that he wrote to all the employees was a really touching letter, very well balanced. And Jeff's annual shareholder letters are always worthy of a read and reflection. So if anybody hasn't read that,
we can link it maybe
letter.
We can link it below.
But I would encourage anybody just to read all the shareholder letters, the annual shareholder letters. But I would say that although he said he's moving into a chairman, so he's still not going anywhere, and I think he was probably has been acting in that position for many years. Because I think he's had Amazon running on a little bit of an autopilot. Of course, with the COVID and the crisis, he probably added a few percentage of his time to it. But I think true leadership and true business development is where you can extract yourself from it, and it kind of runs. The culture is there, the people are there, the process is there. So I think this is just him formalizing what he's been already doing for many years. But maybe now he wants to just really try and get that, is it Blue Origin, the space venture
Yeah,
sorted, because I know Elon is definitely, took his crown away
they're
from
not
the world.
they're not just fighting for like who's the richest man on the world. They're also like who's going to be the first person to send a private company to send someone to Mars, right? I think they're pretty
Yeah,
fiercely competing on that one as well. But I think your last point is an interesting one. I also think that they probably, the succession planning probably started 2 years ago, and he's gonna, I think, end of Q2, what they say, or Q3, he's gonna step out. And it's so interesting that, for a founder or someone who runs a company, the best skill to have is actually make yourself redundant, versus that's like one of the worst things to do if you're an employee, because if you make yourself redundant, they're gonna, even though it's a good thing, right? Because that means like
it's a good
you
thing.
maybe
It's a good
you
thing. Yeah.
get you can make the company more productive and so on, but no one's really aiming to do that. So yeah, in terms of Amazon and retail, and why they're so significantly outperforming the rest of the sector, and that sector is largely still retail, right? AWS is
Yeah.
obviously
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
different topic, but for our conversation today, it's more about retail. Amazon is writing record numbers, and there have also been, on the flip side, record numbers of bankruptcies, not just in the UK, but globally, of large, well-established retail brand, whether these are, specialized retailers or department stores. In the UK, there's like Debenhams and Topshop and TM11
Yeah.
and other ones that all went out of business last year. So what do you think? Why do you think those companies have not? Because e-commerce is not it's not nothing new, right? It's been there for a while. Why do you think the market? Well, where has the market gone that those companies just have been so exposed now within this crisis, and have pretty much been completely put out of business? Is it the lack of technology adoption? Is it the lack of vision? Is it just because those companies have a different culture and they could never really get there? In Germany, we had the same case, like one of the big department store chains, they were just rescued again, just pumping in 400
Hmm.
million of tax money. Yeah, because there's job attached, and I get it, but what comes with it? Are they going to be really then setting themselves up for success in the future? So where do you think the whole retail industry is moving towards, and why are some companies better prepared than others? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I think the traditional big name retailers, of course, highly um, reliant on physical space, shopping malls,
Mm,
want customers footfall to generate revenue and whatnot. And of course, those staffs in those shops, physical spaces, the leases, that's a big ticket item in your balance sheet, right? So I think there's
mm,
definitely an element of that. I think what makes it different is that many of these traditional retailers that now are being dispersed or being bought out or just going into bankruptcy, is that for them the digital and online, it's not that they didn't do it, it was just a side thing. It was
mm,
none of them decided that, what, we're going to go online first.
yeah.
We're going to sell, we're going to pack up, and if we need to have some experiential retail space,
Mm,
right, that's what we will need, a physical space. So I think their core business was still the physical retail. They adapted and did the online and digital aspect of it, but the digital never became the main breadwinner.
yeah.
It became something that they needed to do because everybody was doing it, but
Yeah.
it never became the main channel. So I think that has a big element to it. But I think, look, consumer behaviors, COVID, as we always said, just accelerated what was bound to happen, right? It just accelerated that notion. And it really makes me think, you know, what is the role of physical retail going forward? And one example that I always refer back to is that I thought that when you're buying a big asset in your life, so let's say a car, a brand new car from the dealership, you're gonna, even if though you may want to make the final last mile journey online in terms of the purchase, you'll definitely want to go and do a test drive, look at the colors, the specs, and then, like, you know, it's a big moment in a person's life, right? However, I definitely see a world where, and Tesla's doing this, that people believe so much in the brand and what the brand has to offer that they are willing to make a massive purchase like this without ever having sat in the car. And the first time they'll see it is when it comes up and gets the delivery from the truck. So for an asset like this, for people to be willing to do that, that makes you think. I think clothes, as you may know, fashion, the norm, the consumer behavior now is order all the different sizes to your home. Your home becomes the place where you try it on in your wardrobe. Then keep what you like, send what you don't like, right? So fashion, retail, fashion is already moving towards that. Then I was thinking, well, what about when you're buying furniture for your house? The bed, the sofas, is surely the IKEAs of the world will still have a place. Actually, well, it's a whole question mark. We already have very, like, I don't know, those mattresses that you can try for 90 days. And if you don't like it, you send it back. Well, why can't you? I'm sure there's a model with sofas and dining tables and chairs. So very big question mark around what the future of these retail spaces could mean. Now, I have some thoughts, but before I jump into that, what's your feeling around these big purchase milestones in your life that you would go and spend time to feel and look, physically touch, but now they're moving into the online world?
I agree. Like you know, there has been an argument for a long time that high involvement products, right? So high involvement from a consumer behavior point of view, where they, like, you're really involved in the purchasing process and you research, you compare, and a car is a perfect example. Is not one that is likely to come to the internet, but I can definitely see a trend towards not just consumer behavior, but also a trend on the car manufacturer side that will help facilitate that. Because since we have so strict CO2 emissions, I don't know if you realize, but the sort of the way you can configure cars nowadays is not what it used to be like 5-10 years ago, where you could basically, every car was almost like a, you know, to some extent like a custom made. You could this color with this set and that, you know, almost like every part of the car inside was like configurable. And what has actually happened, at least in Europe and Germany, that's why I know it for sure, car manufacturers can't do that anymore, because they need to offer bundles instead of individual products combinations, because for every product combination they need to get a CO2 emission certificate. So you can imagine, right, if you just offer endless combinations of, like, you know, that car seat with that electric, like motor,
it triggers a new
because
CO2 certification.
Because the weight of the car goes up and down with every sort of combination, and this is way too expensive. So they usually, what they do nowadays, they only offer like the, you know, the smart line, the Lux line, and then like the premium or something like this, and that's pretty much it. And I could imagine, yes, there's still the color and the rims and so on that, you know, you can still customize. But to be honest, if I say, you know what, I think I like that car, there's a good chance that the dealer will have that car on the parking lot, because they could just order in advance, because the combinations are way less. So it's more likely that people will take that car. I said, like, you know what, give me that car for a month. I see if I like it. If I don't like it, I'll give it back, you know, and someone else
So,
takes it.
but my point is, you're right. They will definitely facilitate that by even doing like, try it for a month, and if you don't like it, full refund, right?
Yeah,
But that whole process, I would say, would happen online.
yeah,
Like,
100%. Yeah,
for you to know that you can give it back, your mind is rest assured, etc. You wouldn't even need to step into the dealership. Your test drive is that initial period, right?
yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. Like I checked that online. The car comes. I test it. If I don't like it, ask them, hey, pick it up again and bring me the one, you know, with the different color, like a month later
Yeah,
or
and
something.
make sure it's tomorrow before 12.
Exactly. Amazon Prime. No, I can definitely, see
So
some.
what do you think is going to happen if more and more things are just becoming so digital, online driven? What becomes of these big malls and spaces?
Well, I heard someone argue that big malls will become fulfillment centers because they're usually like in metropolitan areas where there's a lot of demand and they
It's a
have a lot of
nice
space.
central space.
So
Yeah,
they
yeah.
just then use them as distribution and fulfillment centers because there's no space. That much space is not needed anymore. Um, I could just like imagine, because it's not like an overnight shift. I could just imagine that over time those things will go away. You know, you have them, but not new ones. People not really going to invest in
Mm,
those things anymore. And I think more and more physical retail will transform into brand experience spaces rather than stock.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
having
yeah.
stock there.
Transactional. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I think it's more going to be like um, you know, even Tesla has started doing that where they have shops in malls, you know, and it's not about to see like the whole range, but it's just like in a mall or like in on the high street, there's like almost like a boutique, right? Almost like
yeah,
a
yeah.
Louis Vuitton, you know, there's like a Tesla and you go in and there's like one car and it's a cool experience and you get to know the company and all. So I think it's more going towards that. It's not going to go away completely. I don't
Mm,
believe so. And one thing I've been seeing recently more and more is that actually digital first companies, so companies that started with an e-commerce only business model, have actually backwards integrating into you know, retail and then their own actually physical retail stores. So, and I think it's a very interesting trend and actually approach, because there's still not in COVID times, obviously, but outside of COVID times, people still leave the
mhm.
house, people still go shopping, people still like to, you know, be out and about. So, what this is interesting, because like if you start with digital first, you have all the data, right, about like where people buy what, so you can actually start very targeted brand experiences in particular retailers or your own
Yeah,
physical retail store,
yes.
because you can break it down to like, okay, in that city in Germany, consumers specifically like that type of product, and then you only give them that type of product, right? And okay, people buy a lot in Berlin but less in Hamburg, so maybe it's worth it to make a shop in Berlin but not in Hamburg. So it's more going to be data driven rather than like the typical
Yeah.
spray and pray and hopefully people will walk into your shop. And you can be very, very targeted with that, and you will always have the advantage of having that digital first business model where the data will help you to inform all the other decisions, where to also offer your
Mm,
product. So it's not so much then dispersion of retail that it goes away, but it will change, and maybe more and more of the online businesses might also backwards integrate into the retail, because they have such an advantage from a data point of view over the more traditional ones. That's
yeah.
like one thing I can see as well.
Yeah. I think no, it's a good point. I think no doubt there is going to be a lot more targeted personalization. Something will exist for a particular need, because and every city is going to be different, every town's going to be slightly different. I think one thought that I had was that how could some of these traditional folks reinvent themselves, right?
Mm,
And I think these spaces could become a a magnet or a pull to drive more community social things. So what do I mean by this, right? So uh, tech companies that have, and Apple already does this to a certain extent, but you could take it to a whole different level, right? So imagine an Apple store, where there is a very small section where you can try out the devices. Who tries out an Apple device these days anyway? It just comes to you and you just live with it, right? But imagine turning those things into um, educational camps, for kids and families. So people come together to socialize, and learn technology, coding, etc. Imagine supermarkets to a certain extent become a place where you learn how to cook,
Mm.
with folks. If you look at what Starbucks, if you and in my travels in Southeast Asia, and I'm sure it is like this, you know, you see this trend, obviously before COVID, where young folk, whoever folk, they will just hang out in Starbucks for most of their day, drinking 1 or 2 cups of coffee. But the whole pool is an environment where you can socialize and chill with your friends, etc., with your
Yeah.
frappuccino and
Yeah.
whatever flavor it is, right? So if you look at all different aspects of retail and whatnot, etc., um, those physical spaces could become the social fabric,
Yeah.
of people bringing together, less for the transaction, but amplifying, bringing people together to learn something new, to experience something new, right?
Absolutely.
So
I
yeah.
mean, that definitely, I think, creates a lot of stickiness with the brand, because it's then less so associated just with a logo, but like other people who you shared an experience there with, which is always always
Yeah,
much stronger than
yeah,
just like a sort of artificial loyalty assumption to a made up fictional brand or entity. Yeah, I
yeah.
think that could be definitely an interesting one. I think the other thing we need to touch upon is, um, it's not just the Amazons that are disrupting that whole market. A lot of the
Mm,
eyeballs and the attention is on the Amazons and the Zalandos and the Zappos and the all the digital like retailer and brands that have disrupted that market. But what I think a lot of people they're probably aware of it, and most people have nowadays bought something off Instagram and so on. But how easy it is nowadays to actually sell stuff online as like an everyday person who's not necessarily like very well, it doesn't have a background in global sourcing or marketing or sales or starting businesses. The ecosystems like Shopify and WooCommerce and the Facebook, the ability to target, I don't know how many there are right now. I mean, it's still growing. 2 billion people, 2.5 billion people. Like a third of the global population. You can send them an advert trying to sell your product. It's insane. I mean, like everyone with an internet connection basically could start a you know a skincare brand or a
yeah,
fitness
yeah.
brand or a business. And that is also, so it's not just the big juggernauts of the industry that are really putting a lot of pressure on more traditional legacy retailers, but it's also the very small ones who are, they're very good with their messaging. They're very innovative. They speak the language of the time. They know how to use creatives properly. They target really
Yeah.
niche consumers, which also some of those, I think, larger retailers, they don't know really how to do that. They still like almost target everyone. And it's, I mean, look at the Shopify share price last year. I think it's worth now 130 billion US dollars, which is pretty crazy if you think about it. And how this allows almost like everyone to become a competitor of
Mm,
Debenhams or H&M even, you know, like or any sort of retail beauty brand out there. That's pretty extraordinary, and that's for me sort of the even more interesting trend personally. You know, I see that long term to maybe have even a bigger impact. I mean, Amazon basically lives on that as well. You know, it's Amazon FBA. There's also individuals, but that's through their platform, where you pretty much have a locked in. You know, you're locked into the Amazon ecosystem, but that bigger ecosystem is. I think we're just seeing the beginning of that, to be honest. I don't think we have seen even it's just a glimpse of what that could bring over, you know, in terms of value in the next 10, 20, 30 years.
I think absolutely. You know, similar to the commerce, the commerce aspect of it, it's similar to the content and the monetization of the content of it as well. So look at, and I think this is a great, you know, justice that the internet has brought to bring, to give everybody a chance to compete on a level playing field. Yes, what will naturally happen, even if it's accessible to 1 billion people, humans will obviously, certain folks will become much better than others, etc. So what will happen is 20% of the folks will generate 80% of the revenue or the awareness or the so I think that is just natural. But just the notion of somebody anywhere in the world with a connection to the internet and maybe a phone or a camera that they can compete with their unique speciality is just amazing, right? And yeah, no, I think we're just seeing the beginnings of it. And I think if you also look at just from a content audience perspective, before you needed, just look at the music industry, before you needed to maybe sign up with a big record label and big blockbuster budgets, promotion, etc. Now you could, with enough following, I don't, you know, there's always that magic number of the number of followers you need to be able to then, you know, if your content or music is good enough, you can actually make it mainstream and massive. And I think some of these folks, and not just music, look at the sporting industry. I don't know if you saw a couple of a few YouTubers actually, you know, doing boxing promotions and whatnot. The amount of revenue and audience is pulling is as competitive. There will always be purists of the industries that say, hey, look, boxing is for the real fans, and you need to be a boxer at heart, etc. But we have to really recognize all of this.
The audience will decide at the end, right? Especially in that
one. The audience will decide. At the end of the day, sporting events where there is an audience involved, where there is lots of money involved, at the end of the day, it's a form of entertainment, no matter how you want to put it. It's like back in the days, it was gladiators. Now it's folks with some rules.
Now it's like Logan Paul and like fighting Floyd Mayweather or something like that.
At the end of the day, it is entertainment. It is attention seeking for people's entertainment, right? So yeah, no, I think man, it's a big topic, and we're already at the cusp of it. I think we've got a lot more to come in this space, for sure. Definitely. And I would say anybody starting off in their career or in the middle of their career or in the middle of their life or whatever, it's not too late to start, dabbling in these things and becoming familiar with it. If you've got kids, your kids need to become familiar with e-commerce sites, Shopify, YouTube, and things like this. They will be growing up in this world. So I think it's important that they get exposed to it in a controlled manner, in a framework that they can also take advantage of it themselves. Yeah,
definitely. No, it's a super interesting topic. I think it's one that we're probably gonna pick up, multiple times going forward, and
Yeah.
we'll see how it goes. Also, what the long term, because I don't think we can yet see the long term impact of COVID
No.
on the industry. Really, also things are, people are covered. Some companies are covered at the moment through the protection schemes that the governments put in place, but they will
Yeah.
run out at one point. What the macro shift is going to be in consumer behavior. Are people really going to go back to Oxford Street when it opens, now that they're so used of more than almost a year now of just being at home and doing everything online?
True.
We will see. It's gonna be a very interesting one. Cool. So we're sort of running out of time. We wanted to go into a few more topics. One other thing, just for everyone who's interested, please go check out what's going on around Clubhouse at the moment. We wanted to pick up on that one, but I feel if we start talking about it, it's probably going to be another hour.
Yeah.
There will be an episode coming where we will discuss the whole development recently. Like 3-4 years ago, everyone you would have asked, venture capitalists, if you said like, hey, I have an idea for a new social media platform, they would say like, there's the door, goodbye. The market is occupied. And now look at what TikTok has done already, and now Clubhouse seems to have gaining a lot of momentum. We will see how the competitors will react, whether they're just gonna featureize those things on their platform. But it's definitely an interesting one. We've been thinking about doing one. We will see. We might do. That might come in the next couple of weeks. But really, go check it out. It's super interesting. You can there was just Elon Musk doing one with the CEO of Robinhood. That got a lot of media exposure. So yeah, go check that out. Yeah. Other than that, any other thoughts, Fahim?
No, well, like you said, we live in interesting times. Each one of these topics is these are big, meaty topics that could take hours to discuss. So I think we discussed retail this time. We'll pick another one next time. But no, it's good to maybe wrap up.
Cool. Then we'll wrap up. So thanks everyone, as always, for listening. If you're on YouTube, give this video a like if you liked it. Subscribe if you haven't already. Leave us a comment if you have any questions or thoughts. Same on LinkedIn, of course. If you're on Spotify, please download the podcast. It's just one click, but that really helps us. As always, please engage with us if you have any questions or ideas or thoughts on the topics. We're always happy to engage in a conversation. We will be here next week for sure. Until then, have a good week. Stay safe, stay healthy, and see you. Bye.
Peace.